What is up, guys?
All right, guys, we're gonna go inside here.
Wow,
let's go.
Vlada jumped into that one. Well, hope you're well. We're gonna take you guys on a walk across the Williamsburg Bridge. We've done a handful of videos, lives, kind of sporadically, but we haven't done one on a day that is this beautiful. So I figured we'd take you along, and yeah, that's about everything, right?
That's about everything.
Yeah, let's go. So just to prove it, obviously, while the entrance is there, it looks very grungy around here. So I guess, like, depending on when you're here, just be a little mindful of your surroundings. So you can tell there's a lot of people here.
Oh yeah, everyone's walking through.
Yeah. Well, you were saying it's a really nice day for it.
Yeah,
too, right?
it's 2 o'clock now, so you figure people are trying to maximize the day. Now that it's summer, it doesn't get dark until like 8:30. So
that's true. Yeah.
If it was winter, it'd be getting dark in 3 hours.
Basically. Yeah. So to Vlada's point, this walk takes you right over into Lower Manhattan, specifically off of Delancey Street. So when you get off the bridge, you're welcomed by a lot of cool areas, especially in like Lower Manhattan. And the walk itself is probably about like 35 minutes.
Yeah.
So you kind of figure that, you know, especially if you have maybe a healthy breakfast or brunch.
Or you're on your way to a healthy breakfast or brunch.
That's kind of the idea for us. But yeah, it's a cool way to kind of look around. And especially when maybe you're not as familiar with the city or Brooklyn, walking over a bridge is kind of a cool way to kind of see a lot in kind of a short period. So that's where we're hoping to show today, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how you feeling?
Good. How do you feel?
Good.
Yeah, it's nice up here.
Yeah, it is, right? You were saying that the wind will be kind of comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We dressed a little bit too warm for today, but
well,
you know, the weather in 3 hours might be like 50 degrees. So
yeah. Well, to defend ourselves, I'll say we dressed for the weather we walked out to, but literally about half an hour later, especially walking in the sun, you feel it a little different. Oh, you can see that M train. So like the Williamsburg Bridge doesn't get as much love as some bridges, unfortunately. When you compare it to like a Brooklyn Bridge, I think by proximity, and it's not like the quote unquote prettiest, but it gives you just as nice views depending on when you're walking over. And you can basically appreciate all the bridges over there. Kind of in the distance, you have the Manhattan Bridge, and then behind it, the Brooklyn Bridge. So
what was the romantic bridge that we walked?
The Brooklyn Bridge.
That was really nice.
That was a good cue to, we'll link that video to this one. But yeah, we did a live a few weeks ago.
And it was sunset too, which was like extra romantic.
So we did a live a few weeks ago and Vlada hadn't walked over the Brooklyn Bridge. So it was nice because it wasn't super crowded. This is when...
it was still chilly.
It was chilly, yeah. I was going to say, it was just not a lot of people on it that day.
And it was Friday, so like you figure it's not a weekend.
Yeah, but it was beautiful, so we'll link that. That was one of our that was from one of our lives, actually. Hey, my love?
I was saying it's nice as you get closer to it because
I
feel like this bridge, when you're walking on it, it's not like, I mean, there's a lot of things covering it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I feel like walking over any bridge is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's one of the unique things about New York because most people think of the city as like tall buildings or like certain neighborhoods, but the water, you kind of have that beautiful balance of it because when you walk over the bridge, you can really just appreciate it, where you have like downtown Brooklyn over there, and we're obviously behind this where you have Manhattan in that direction, and you even have Queens if we walk a little further ahead in an angle.
That's Long Island City, right?
In that direction, yeah. Yeah, commenting the breeze feels nice.
Yeah.
Yes. I think we chose this well because it was a little warmer even at the start of this walk, but the breeze and a fair amount of shade helps a lot, right? Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely appropriate, Jack. Like for the breeze, I'm like, oh, Because I see some people walking around in t-shirts and stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll be chilly. But then again, I mean, there's a lot of people running too.
And these are some of the high-rises kind of on the border, on the shoreline of Williamsburg, kind of behind us. And then a few more in that direction as well. So it's kind of funny because if you look at it from the city, you think Williamsburg and you see those shiny buildings, but you have a lot more than that too, so it's kind of cool. I think that adds to why people are, oh, Williamsburg, and then they think expensive because that's the first thing you see if you're looking from the city, but you know, the worst thing. You can kind of get some views of like Midtown Manhattan and upper, not Upper East Side necessarily, but in that general direction, if you keep going, you'll have that as well. So.
Yuck.
Say yuck.
Midtown.
Oh, Midtown. Yeah, we're not the biggest fans of Midtown. It is what it is. That's true.
I feel like every New Yorker is like, no.
Yeah. Midtown is interesting because it is dominated a lot by like high rises where if you're not used to that, it's definitely cool to see. But if you live in the city, you kind of have a different version of it where it's a little more touristy and not always fun.
We'll say that Midtown East is nice.
Yeah. Kind of off like First Avenue, York.
Yeah, first, second, third.
Well, what makes you say that?
It's less like tall buildings. It's less foot traffic.
A little less congested, maybe.
Yeah, they actually have really good food places in like Midtown East. But
so
haven't been there for a while because no work. Well, work from home.
No commuting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so Vlada's referring to some areas, even like a Murray Hills to an extent. It's a little more residential on the outskirts of Midtown. So depending if you like want to live in Midtown for whatever reason, we would recommend like sort of on like the borders. Primarily on the east side. The west side gets a little weird.
Yeah, west side also has like it has a lot more noise.
Yeah.
It's also like Hell's Kitchen, which there's not too many places. There's a lot of like older buildings too.
Yeah.
So I had friends that lived in Hell's Kitchen for a year, and after that they were just like, I'm done, because it's so loud.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
they're just like, it's 24/7, like you just hear things. So yeah, I mean, they also didn't live in New York, so it's just an experience for them. They also like did it. They were like, oh, it's Midtown, and then they're like, never again.
I can see that. That's the one thing too. It's that like most people's feelings around Midtown are also surrounded by like the tourism. Obviously, this past year hasn't been as much, but depending on certain areas, especially like very much in the heart of it, as like a Times Square, safety is still kind of concerned.
Yeah.
Because it's like a hub of like different characters. No pun intended with like the Elmos and stuff, but you just always have to be careful. And to Vlada's point, and even her friend mentioning it too, it's pretty loud. If you're from a quiet neighborhood, maybe it's like ironic in a way. You're like, oh, it's so crazy.
Well, also the prices in Hell's Kitchen tend to be really good. So if you're like looking, you know, for Manhattan, you know, like the prices are good, but then you realize, oh, it's like a really old building.
For a reason,
yeah. Because people don't. You might live there for a year, and after that, you're like, all right, that's enough.
That's true.
And also keep in mind that like since it is so touristy, all the food things are way overpriced.
Yeah.
Just a lot of the stuff like nearby. So
it's true. Yeah, that's a great point.
You know, you want to get a slice of pizza, and then the slice of pizza is like $3 for one slice.
Yeah.
$4. You know.
So Vlada also touches on a good point where, depending on where people are traveling from, especially tourism, the American dollar isn't always worth as much as currencies elsewhere. So what you'll see is that a lot of these places charge more because some people might be like, oh, I can spend like this much and it won't be as much as like my native dollar. So it's kind of interesting, but also
native currency.
yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, especially like the euro and the pound, where it can go up as high as like 2 to 1.
Yeah. Now
I think it's like maybe like 1 to 1.2 or like 1 to 1.5. So
yeah,
obviously that fluctuates.
True.
Super
cool. How are you holding up?
Good. I looked at the map. We're almost done, which felt like really quick.
Yeah, we're on the Manhattan side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So over in this direction, you have what's considered like two bridges, which we've spoken to in a number of videos, but it's sort of like a housing
project, housing authority.
Yeah, housing authority complex, if you will, where there's a little more of a concentration of people, and sometimes there's like characters there, as a lot of places, but sometimes you just have to be a little mindful of crime. And it is fairly out of the way, ironically, because even though we're passing it over the bridge, you do have to kind of make an effort to get to this area. But all that to say, if you're like wandering around the Lower East Side, you just want to be careful.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially if you are trying to move to Manhattan.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
you're You're looking for apartments that say like Lower East Side, East Village.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's actually two bridges.
Yeah.
So look on the map, and if it is near two bridges, kind of like, maybe move somewhere else. Move a little bit upper to East Village, because the area, I think during the daytime it's a little bit better.
For sure, like
but
most places,
nighttime, it can get a little bit sketchy, so you kind of want to just be careful.
Yeah. Vlada's also speaking to, along the lines of that, if you're looking on like a map, Lower East Side can sometimes be general, although...
Yeah, especially when in real estate, when they're just like, oh, let's just say Lower East Side versus like two bridges.
But moreover, especially if you're looking in the Lower East Side, but you're looking in, say, like Alphabet City specifically, those blocks and avenues are dominated by letters, so you'll have Avenue A through D. Avenue A and Avenue B are pretty nice, but Avenue C and D are a little sketchy, so... What were you going to say?
I was going to say Avenue D also has a huge housing complex.
Yeah.
And has like a methadone clinic and just other stuff. So definitely be careful. Especially at nighttime. Honestly, anytime during the day it kind of gets weird.
Yeah.
But Avenue A and B we would recommend. C I'd be like, D, no.
Once we turn the corner a little bit, you'll notice on the bridges there are these like gates, if you will, and it kind of blocks the view slightly, but once we walk a little more further ahead, it'll be a little more open, because I know we've pointed to kind of the two bridges area a few times, but just to have it be a little more clear, because once you see it, you're like, oh, it's there. But in a video like this, sometimes it can be a little hard to kind of make out, especially when I point, I'm just like, yeah, there, and you're like, all I see is a red bridge, like, what is that? But yeah. It's pretty ironic because like a lot of places in say like Brooklyn, especially where we're a little more, not more familiar with, but we've been more exposed to the past few years. Manhattan's the same way, where you can be in certain areas that are quote unquote nice, but then it can be quite different, because you can look even in the distance, you have like the Freedom Tower, and you're like, oh cool, I must be in a great area. But depending on where that is, it can be a little different. So these are kind of the buildings we were talking about. And again, a lot of mentioned in the daytime, you should be okay.
Yeah, I would say like these are one of the more like, just in the daytime, it's a bit fine, but...
What we'll say though is that this area is primarily dominated by like residential buildings. So you're not necessarily gonna be like, going through here to like visit a museum or anything of that effect. I don't know if it was designed like that to be so separated, but all that to say, most train lines don't even run through this general area. You have to go a little further, whether it's like an Avenue A or First Avenue, and along Houston Street at times. But just worth noting, because you can see this and be like, oh, cool, but it might be a little, I don't know, little misleading in a way. Yeah, we're on the Manhattan side now. Still holding up?
I'm wonderful.
Good.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah.
I love you, honey bunny.
Love you too. Burberry baby, but boo-boo.
Okay.
Yes. I swear, when I'm just talking to you guys in the camera, it's one thing. Vlada's here, then we start whispering sweet nothings to each other, and then it gets totally unprofessional. No comment.
I love you, Isaac.
I love you too, Vlada. She read that line perfectly, so. You can actually see kind of a little bit the Chrysler building.
Empire?
Chrysler.
Oh.
Yeah. Close though. Yeah.
I always get them mixed up.
Yeah, they're both kind of pointy.
In the nighttime, it's easy to tell which one is which because obviously the Empire State is like very lit up. But I feel like during the daytime, I always get confused.
They are fairly close. I mean, so maybe just a random fact. So like the Empire State Building is on 34th Street, and the Chrysler Building specifically is on 42nd. So if you're looking from a distance, that's 8 blocks? Mm-hmm. That doesn't sound like that far, but depending if you are looking from that distance, it might look similar, especially with the top because it is fairly pointy. But I'm sure you're not alone with mixing them up.
Good.
So we mentioned how the bike lane and the walking lane are separated kind of towards the middle, but when you're actually walking on the bridge initially, they are combined.
On the Manhattan side.
On the Manhattan side, yes. So when you're walking, just be mindful because obviously there's a fair amount of space, but you just want to be a little careful, especially when bikes are going pretty fast. You don't want to be in the wrong spot. And more specifically, you don't want to be shamed by a biker yelling bike lane.
Because they do that.
We've all been there. Yes, they are. Mm-hmm. So a personal life update. Vlada's living vicariously through the allergies I have, which to Vlada's point have been a little stronger this year. But whenever I sneeze, she sneezes in spirit, so we're in it together, right?
Yes, we are. Yeah. We are definitely in it together.
This general area wasn't always like the best, so kind of seeing developments such as those in the distance is quite interesting because you can see how they're trying to like change up the area, but a lot of the Lower East Side is a lot of older buildings, I would say.
It's kind of grungy.
Yeah. Kind of cool though.
Yeah.
But we'll notice it more when we get off because you can kind of see it now. Some of the older buildings with graffiti, and then across the street you have these shiny guys. So kind of cool. Usually, this is kind of cool. It actually says Williamsburg Bridge right up here. It's a little hard to see.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know that?
Wow.
Yeah. So again, it's really subtle. You'll totally like not even notice it, but it's kind of a cool little touch because if you were to say walk over this bridge but mean to walk over the Brooklyn Bridge, I can lead you into a totally different area of Brooklyn. Not a negative, but just worth noting. But yeah, that was kind of the bridge. And some of the buildings Vlada was pointing out earlier, kind of with the paint jobs, although they are a little older, but still cool to see. And now we're on Delancey Street. If we walk all the way down, it kind of takes you into like, I guess the middle section of like Lower Manhattan, if that makes sense. You're kind of like not far from Soho and stuff. Mm-hmm. And again, just another kind of like directory of like the bikes going on one side and then the walking taking place on the other. But that's about it. I think we did it. What do you think? High five? All right. High fives mean we got through. But as always, guys, thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Bye.
Peace.